It's time for Reason.
And the unions are the ones behind all of it, and it shows the priority is not the children and their education, but it's about we have our own agenda, and unless you give us every single thing we want, we're not content. It's the typical progressive mentality of we get everything, and you better compromise. The terms of negotiation and compromise in today's times of you give us everything, or else we will stop and cease all activity and productivity until you give us everything.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Welcome into the Voice of Reason on a Tuesday. It's a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. Welcome aboard. We love having you here. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, it is going to be one heck of a show today, heck and a half, really. As there's a lot of things going on right now. It's kind of crazy as the walkouts are happening in Oklahoma, Kentucky, Arizona, and a lot of the teachers very upset. Schools being closed for a second day in a row in many areas of Oklahoma. Last I had heard, yesterday at least, there was, 200 schools in the state that actually closed down. Kind of interesting there. So guess what, kids? You got an extra day off when it comes to your spring break. Go enjoy, apparently, because, it's more fun to actually go and just have some fun there than it is to actually get educated. So you don't need no education. We're just going to go and have a little fun. We'll talk about that in just a bit, get your take on that. Also, the stocks closing a little bit lower yesterday. Everybody panicky about the beginning of April and how April seems to be opening in the worst way since, what'd they say, the Great Depression. Must be Trump's fault, right?
Oh, my God. Who the hell cares?
Oh, yeah, that's really what we're at right now when it comes to the stock market. Give me a break. It's okay. We track this way too frequently, way too much, way too closely. We need to step back for a little bit. We need to allow it to actually work out its thing, and then we'll be back on track. Right now, we're beginning a trade war with China. I think we're going to be okay. 316-720-8255, 316-721-TALK. We do have Peter Murphy coming on the show in the 8 o'clock hour today. He'll be talking about school choice, along with, of course, our city council member here for the Wichita area at 7:30 in hour number 2. But until then, it's open lines to you. I want to hear from you. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you, does not matter. I'd love to hear from you today. 316-721-8255. The Facebook Live feed is open, rolling, and rocking today as well. You can leave a comment, say good morning, like it, share it onto your own page. Do whatever you'd like to do. I want to start off with this story, though, and as you know, we just wrapped up Easter holiday, and everybody hopefully did get an good Easter break. Hopefully you're back at it now today after maybe taking a day off yesterday. And according to there was a story actually that popped up on Drudge Report this morning from the Sacramento Bee, and a woman being arrested on Sunday down in Phoenix, Arizona, after tasing her son because he would not get up on Easter Sunday to go to church. An Arizona mother was arrested Sunday after police said she used a taser to wake up her 16-year-old son for Easter church service. Talk about he has risen. Because, come on, we get a nice little taser, and that'll wake you up in the morning. Sharon Dobbins, 40 years old, told police in Phoenix that she only sparked the taser to get the kids up for church on Easter, according to the court records. An 18-year-old and a 17-year-old were also in the room in the apartment and witnessed the incident around 7:45 a.m. on April 1st. I wonder if it was an April Fool's joke when it came to this as well. Dobbins was arrested just after 8 a.m. on Easter Sunday, shortly after the incident. The victim, quote, did not complain of any pain, but Dobbins was booked on suspicion of child abuse and taken to the jail. There you go. If you want your kids to wake up, just give them a little taser. They'll be fine. They'll wake up, and then they'll be ready to rock and roll for you. Come on. I think it's appropriate, right? Yeah, there you go. That's a way to wake up on an Easter Sunday. I do want to talk about a little bit later as well, this Laura Ingraham issue. Fox News did come out as of last night, say that Laura Ingraham will be returning. They will be supporting her. They will not be canning her or her radio show. Both of them still rocking and rolling. As you know, that she's been kind of on a hiatus for a little bit, and she's been on a vacation for the last week or so, waiting to hear what's going to happen with all that. And if you do want to chime in, you're more than welcome to do that. David Hogg, thinking that he's actually got the momentum here. Just imagine a 17-year-old kid having enough influence to bully a major market radio and TV host, to be able to bully a bunch of businesses and advertisers, to be able to have his way, because apparently he is way smarter and way more intelligent than adults who've actually studied constitutional law, because he's the activist. And that's what concerns me when it comes to issues like this, because an uneducated high school student who may be an activist, may be passionate, but thinks that he knows more than what constitutional experts actually know more than what somebody who studies this and follows this on a daily basis knows, and then rallies enough people to believe him and side with him over the experts, because we're that passionate about wanting to change things and wanting to completely overhaul the entire system and not care about the actual facts of the issue, but just the activist movement of, hey, we want to change things. This is why I disagree strongly with some of the other talk show hosts, like, I don't like to call them out by name really, but usually like Mike Gallagher, that says that we should give the kids a break when they want to be active like this. No, because look at what happens. If we rally and if we protest and if we stand up and we try and march against something when we're not completely familiar with the issue, and we kind of generalize the march and we kind of generalize the movement, then that does harm to society, because people rally and kind of, being the sheep that many of them are, kind of move towards that movement, think it's a wonderful thing, become the activists and support them and side along with them when they know nothing about the issue in any way, shape, or form. This is dangerous to a society. So no, I do not support in any way, shape, or form them going out and marching unless they actually understand the issue. This really goes along with the marches that are happening in Oklahoma, Kentucky, and Arizona right now when it comes to the teachers. Because what are we marching against? We're marching for better wages for the teachers. Great. Who are we marching against? We're marching right now against the government and against the state legislators. Because right now, they want the better wages for the salary for the teachers, and right now they're blaming the legislators. Now, it may be different situations in Oklahoma and in Kentucky and in Arizona. It may be different situations for them. And if you live in Oklahoma right now, I know right now we're broadcasting down into Oklahoma, in the Panhandle, down into Texas. We're broadcasting all across that region right now. If you live in Oklahoma and you're familiar with this, call me. Let me know. Explain this position to me, because here in Kansas, the local school district is what negotiates the terms for the teachers, for their contracts, for their salaries, for their benefits. It's the local school district that does that. It's not the state legislators. They give the lump sum chunk of money to the district and say, have at ye, and you get to do your own thing. And the local school district is what negotiates with the local school board, negotiates the contracts and the salaries for the superintendent, for all the administrators, for the teachers, for the resources in the classroom. The local school district does that. I saw a story, and we'll talk about it a little bit later today, about the movement of many teachers now in Kansas considering doing a march out and a walkout here in Kansas as well, because look, it's working. This is day number 2 for Oklahoma. They did this a while ago, and they ended up getting like an 8% bump in salary, and they ended up getting what they accomplished, what they wanted. Because they marched, because they shut down the schools. They did not allow the children to go and actually get an education, and it was for the wrong reasons. Now, in Oklahoma, the legislators may have direct impact on exactly what the teacher salaries are, and they may have a some kind of micro control over the local school districts and over what the teachers are actually making salary-wise. I don't know. And we'll get somebody on from Oklahoma to talk about that. But in Kansas, the state senators and state legislators do not have that. They do not have that authority. It would be the local school district, which is why here in Kansas, it would be absurd for us to shut down the schools and absurd for the teachers to march, because they'd be marching against the wrong thing, because they don't understand, because the teachers' unions have not taught them the appropriate way to actually change the status quo. The teachers' unions have not actually been for the best advocacy of actually taking care of the teachers as they say that they do. Is that the same situation in Oklahoma? I don't know. But if we're going to march, if we're going to be active, if we want to change things, we need to understand exactly what we need to change. David Hogg and all these progressive gun grabbers that are happening all across the nation, another one happening this weekend when it comes to the March for Our Lives here in Wichita, here in the Mid-America region. We're going to have protests, March for Our Lives, and the anti-gun grabbers. Well, the anti-gunners and the gun grabbers, whatever you want to call them. They will be marching again. For what? for safer schools. Okay, what does that actually mean? Taking guns away. That's an absurd policy. What are you going to do about that? Well, we're going to repeal the Second Amendment. Okay, that's completely false and it's never going to happen. But we want to do that, and we're going to change it. And until you actually do something, because the government has failed us and we need to do something, then we're going to be very upset and we're going to continue to protest. Do you see the complete lack of thought that goes into this? And then the sheep that are many in society in the progressive side, they continue to just herd themselves toward that. Yeah, that sounds like a really good movement. We don't necessarily know what we're doing or the details of it, but yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That is why marches, when they're unsubstantiated, when they're completely naive, when they're completely ignorant, marches like that are dangerous. No, I do not support them unless they know exactly what they're standing for. That's what we have to start to be aware of. That's what we have to start to change. And look at what it did. David Hogg, that knows nothing about constitutional law, that knows nothing about the Second Amendment, that knows nothing about the guns and probably never shot a firearm in his entire life, got Laura Ingraham, a national talk show host on radio and on the Fox News, to be removed temporarily as a vacation while they decide what they're going to do with her. Because why? He rallied enough drones, enough clapping seals, enough ignorant fools to go along with protesting her sponsors to where they would drop her. Because ignorance in the situation led to a mass movement. That is dangerous in society. That is why we've elected so many non-geniuses like, Barack Obama. Lots more coming up. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Mid-America Network.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. It is a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday, and we'd love to hear from you today. Welcome aboard at 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, you're more than welcome to do so. Here it is. Stocks. According to Bloomberg.com, stock's second quarter start is the worst since the Great Depression. If you feel like the second quarter began badly, you'd be right. U.S. stocks had their worst April start since 1929. According to data compiled by Bloomberg, the S&P 500 index slumped 2.2%, a rout exceeded only by its 2.5% decline 89 years ago, a prelude to the devastating crash later in that year that brought on the Great Depression. All right, hold on here. Wait, are we saying that there's going to be a new Great Depression this year? Is that what they're saying? Now, we just came out of the Barack Obama, George W. Bush recession that we've been through for so long. And remember, it would have been a heck of a lot worse unless Barack Obama needed to actually do all the stimulus packages and needed to do all these bailouts and needed to lower the value of the dollar by ingesting all this money into the economy. Now we're trying to get us back on track. And what did I say before? When we first started seeing the market kind of waver back and forth after the grow, and then we saw some droppage, and I said, this is bleeding the system right now. This is like the oil change or the fluid change that you have on your vehicle when you can't have any air bubbles, and you're bleeding it, and you're letting it run through the hose and letting it run through, and you're seeing all these bubbles come through. And then once you see a steady stream, then you know you're good. And right now, with all the bad crap and junk that's been injected into our economy for so long, thanks to progressive values, thanks to the Democrats, thanks to moderate Republicans, thanks to many of them that feel like, hey, you know what, let's lower the value of the dollar, let's print off more money, let's do all these bailouts, let's do all this crap. We're trying to bleed that out of the system. Now we're growing naturally. We're not growing artificially based on injected government policy. We're growing naturally. And it's going to take some time, and we're going to see it go up a little bit, and then we're going to hit a pocket, and we're going to hit a bubble, and we're going to go back down, and then we're going to grow up a little bit, and then we're going to hit another pocket and a bubble, and we're going to go back down. And it's going to be a trend for a while. And then you see the different trade wars with us potentially dropping out of NAFTA and the trade war that we're having with Mexico. and the potential bickering that we're going to have with Mexico when it comes to building the wall. And then we're going to see the trade war with China, because China is one of the greatest economies that's growing as well, that's trying to compete with us. And we're starting to put tariffs on their stuff, and then they're putting tariffs on our stuff. And it's going to go back and forth. This is what it's going to do to the market. We're not going to see a stable market for a while, and that's okay. It's going to be all right. We got to stop panicking about this stuff every single day. Good golly. And the fact that it started off the month at 2.2% low, a 2.2% slump. That's how it started with the Great Depression. Let me tell you what, that Donald Trump and those conservative policies, I tell you, that's going to create a whole Great Depression in the nation, and it's going to be crazy, and it's going to be nuts. Give me a break. This is the threat. This is the scare tactics that we have all the time, because people panic when we see just a slump on a day-to-day basis. Give it a month. Give it 6 months. Look at the trends there and then kind of see where we're at. We don't need to do it on a daily basis. And by the way, let me tell you exactly what's going to happen with China. Now, I'm not an expert on international affairs. I've been out of the country one time. I don't know how their economy works and what they like to do. I know the sneakiness of what other nations like to do to other nations, and I can just be an observer here from the middle of the country in Kansas. That's all I can observe. But from the political standpoint, let me tell you what's going to happen with China. China is going to try and bicker back and forth when it comes to our trade war. They're going to place the tariffs on as they have already done. Guess what? That's okay. We'll negotiate with them a little bit. We'll create a little bit better trading deal with us. And we'll do it with them. We'll start meeting. We'll start sitting down. And we'll say, look, we continue to want to trade with you. You want to trade with us. We want to trade with you. We want to do it, but we're going to do it with better circumstances. Donald Trump is a negotiator. If we would allow him to do his job, if we would allow him to do the negotiating that he knows how to do, then we'd be in good shape. And the fact that he's already had kind of a prior relationship with China when it comes to his companies, I think we're going to be okay. He'll be able to negotiate. They'll be able to agree. I mean, what did he say on the campaign trail? That we've had some of the worst negotiations ever, and that he cringes watching how we negotiated some of the trade deals around the nation, around the globe. We need to do this in a better stint. And yes, it's going to shake it up, but we need to be the ones in control of the situation. For the longest time, we've been the ones that have been apologetic. We've been the ones that have been very weak. We've been the ones that don't actually stand up for what we believe in, and we're not prideful in what kind of products that we actually have. And when we negotiate deals, you can tell. Let's say you're a salesman and you're selling insurance, or you're selling at a retail store, you're selling cell phones, or you're selling whatever. If you're not proud of the product that you're selling, then you sell it at a lower value. You don't actually value the product that you're selling, right? I mean, yeah, it's not that good. Yeah, go ahead and I'll give you a deal on it. Yeah, I mean, as opposed to when you know, hey, this is top quality, baby. This is high quality. This is top of the line. You're not going to get anything better. Yeah, I can work with you a little bit here, but at the same time, this is what the value of this product actually is, and I cannot go any lower, because then it would be a steal and it wouldn't be worth that, and I'm prideful in what I'm actually selling. There's a difference there, right? And that's not what we've been doing for the longest time in the nation. We've just been giving things away. We've been selling the milk while we give the cow away. That's not the way that works anymore. And now we're going to be prideful of our product. We're going to be prideful of our people. We're going to be prideful of our nation. We're going to be prideful around. Barack Obama not only apologized for who we are as a nation when it came to civil issues or social issues, but that bleeds into negotiations with the products that we sell around the world anyways with our negotiations. It's the same exact thing, and now we're going to start seeing a changing of that. Some people may not like it, but oh well.
Defending the rights of every Kansan.
I'm not being aggressive, I'm being dominant.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Making it happen today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday, loving every minute of it. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live across the entire Mid-America Network. We love having you aboard. Welcome in the 5-state area. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, you're more than welcome to do so. Getting some messages on social media this morning as well. Good morning to you. Great to have you along on there as well. The Facebook Live, by the way, is up and rocking. Leave a comment, ask a question, say good morning, call me a jerk. I don't really care, whatever you'd like. You're more than welcome to do so. 316-721-8255. I want to read two different comparisons for you here when it comes to this debate on the marches. When it comes to the benefits, when it comes to the salaries, when it comes to making lives better. We had a call yesterday where we said that anybody making less than $50,000 maybe should just up and walk out. They should do a march. They should protest. We should actually do something like that. And I want to do a comparison of the two. I want to do a comparison between teachers, and I want to do a comparison of other industries. And we'll do that in a second as we're seeing day number 2 of the Oklahoma walkout. Spring break has it extended for some of the kids in Oklahoma. Many schools in the area may remain closed for a second day running after a school walkout hit services across the state. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin signed legislation last week granting the teachers pay raises of 15 to 18%. But many teachers who haven't received a pay raise for a decade said that just isn't good enough and walked out. If I didn't have a second job, I'd be on food stamps. I understand that. We have a lot of issues that we need to address when it comes to those teacher salaries. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and go to Rick with the news.
Boom. It's
the humanity!
ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Andy. Good morning, everyone. A Kansas woman suspicious that someone had broken into her home found her ex-boyfriend's legs punched through her ceiling. The Salina Journal reports that a 23-year-old Salina woman called police to her house last Thursday after finding her front door chained from the inside. Ooh. Police say they searched the house but didn't find an intruder. 2 hours later, the woman and her current boyfriend heard a loud noise and found the 25-year-old former boyfriend had fallen partially through the living room ceiling. Police say the man was hiding in the attic. Police say the current boyfriend pulled the man's legs through the ceiling and began fighting him. Officers arrested the man, Tyler Bergkamp, who faces charges of, wait for it now, aggravated burglary, stalking, criminal damage to property, criminal threat, and possession of methamphetamine.
Oh, shocker. Shocker.
Now, here's one I saw on social media yesterday. And I saw it, and I immediately dismissed it. I saw the headline and the picture, and I thought, no, that's just too whacked. That can't really be. But it is making news now. CBS News reports teens have taken to social media posting videos of themselves snorting condoms. Yes, they're inhaling them, then pulling them out through their mouths. Okay, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Doctors say the viral trend poses several health risks.
Allegedly. I mean, especially if there's like vitamins or something in there. I don't know.
Including getting stuck or causing someone to choke.
Winning.
They also say it could lead to infection. One doctor cites a 2004 case in which a woman accidentally inhaled a condom, which I'm not even going to finish this story. But when you thought it couldn't get any worse than Tide Pods, here we go.
Here's your sign.
Snorting condoms.
Have you seen the new challenge other than that too? I mean, now we have the snorting condoms, but have you seen the other challenge of the coil burners on your stove? There's a challenge now to put your forearm on them and burn yourself to leave a mark.
Cool.
There's that. And then, I don't know if you saw the story, and here's a new story for you as well that I just read at the beginning of the show, of the woman in Phoenix, Arizona, who tasered her 16-year-old child on Easter Sunday to get him out of bed to go to Easter service.
Well, a family that tased together prays together.
There you go. I guess so. Rick with the news. There we go.
And that's the news.
The world's a funny place nowadays, is it not? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. All right, I want to do a comparison for you here. The average teacher salary in the state of Oklahoma is anywhere between $30,000 to $45,000, depending on what class you take, your education level, how long you've been in there, so on and so forth. Between $30,000 to $46,000. Now, That may even vary some. That's the average, which means we may see even a little bit lower in some cases as well. There's day number 2 when it comes to the march out for the state of Oklahoma for a lot of these teachers, shutting down over 200 schools across the entire state because we're fighting for better wages. The state legislature just passed, as of Thursday or Friday last week, the governor just signed it, to increase their salary over $6,000, which is close to 18% as an average salary increase, which is a good start, in my opinion. Now, they say that they don't like that, they want more, and I've, you know my position on this, that it's been a work in progress, and as the economy begins to uptick, then they can actually get some more as well, but you cannot make it mandatory to increase people's salaries when the economy's not doing well. You do not go to your boss at work and say, you know, inflation's going up a little bit, the price of cost of living's up a little bit, and groceries are a little bit more expensive, and I got a lot more debt at home, I need a pay raise. And the business says, oh, wait a second, but the economy is struggling right now, and we're not getting a whole lot of business. I can't give you a raise because we don't have the money to do so right now. And then you throw a fit and you start marching. And I used the example yesterday is if I would have showed up today and said, hey, you know what? I feel like I need a pay raise. I do a lot for the company. I just feel like I need a pay raise. I'm not going to show up and do my job. Instead, I'm going to stand outside the window here, right outside the studio, holding a sign saying that I deserve a pay raise because of all that I do for the company, yada, yada, yada. Is that going to be beneficial to anybody? No, it's not. And that's really the way I see it when it comes to these marches in the state of Oklahoma, in the state of Kentucky, in the state of Arizona, and potentially here in the state of Kansas. Now, with that, remember as well that teachers are on the public dime. They're on taxpayer money, making $30,000 to $46,000 as an average in the state of Oklahoma. Not the best. Should we take care of them? Absolutely. We are all about taking care of the teachers. We need to focus on the priorities here, but I want to use the other example. This is according to farmbureau.org, fb.org. After a rebound slightly in 2017, net farm income of 2018 is expected to fall $59.5 billion across the nation, a 12-year low, according to the USDA Economic Research Service's most recent 2018 farm sector income forecast. If realized, this would be the lowest net farm income since 2006 and would represent a decline of 6.7% from the USDA's 2017 projections. 6.7% decline from the projections in 2017. Net cash farm income is less comprehensive and does not include non-cash items. The net cash income for 2018 is projected to be $91.9 billion. Now, $91.9 billion seems like a lot of money. Here's how it actually breaks down. Well, the average farm income is expected to rise 0.2% in 2018 to $119,000 per household, thinking, hey, that's not too bad. Those numbers do not tell the full story. The average farm income, according to the Farm Bureau, includes both non-farm and both on-farm and off-farm sources of income. Meaning, guess what? Farmers, in many cases, and many of the farmers starting off the day right now this morning, you understand this, you usually are working a second job, are you not? You're doing something other than just farming because you cannot afford the living, just like teachers. Teachers say that they can't live off their income there as a teacher, and they need to work a second job. Guess what? Many other people are doing it as well. During 2018, average on-farm income. Now remember, this is on-farm. This is the person that's working 12 hours a day trying to take care of the animals. This is the person sinking money in left and right on food, on water, on tractors, on supplies, on resources, on equipment, on trucks, on gas, on everything. Spending 12 hours a day harvesting out in the fields, planting, spraying, planting. It's going to be a decline as an average of a decline of 10.3% to $21,000. Would you do all of that work, busting your back, retired to, harming yourself potentially, doing crazy, insane hours, spraying the fields, planting the fields, harvesting the fields, working on equipment, buying? A combine is really the same as a mortgage when it comes to the price of them, over $100,000 plus. It's expensive equipment. It's expensive stuff. And at the end of the day, you walk away at the end of the year with $21,000 as a profit. Are you kidding me? Now, I understand there's a difference between farming and teaching and what goes into that, but the average salary for the teacher in Oklahoma is $30,000. The average farmer, when they're walking away at the end of the year, is just $20,000. And guess what? The safety net is under the public dime right now, is under the public servant, Because the teachers, they have the unions to back them up. Is there a farmers union? I mean, they got the Farm Bureau. They got special interests advocating to try and help out with their agenda. They got ways that they can actually help out the best that they can. But at the same time, is that the same? The teachers, they're guaranteed through taxpayer money that they're never going to go down. The teachers, they're guaranteed that they're never actually going to walk away from a job. I mean, we're not going to shut down every school in the entire state of Oklahoma or in the state of Kansas. We're not going to shut it down and say, yeah, we're going to go straight to private students, or we're going to go to private schools, or we're going to go to charter schools, and we're going to do that, and we're going to get rid of all the teachers that are on the taxpayer public dime. It's not going to happen. It's just never going to happen. They're guaranteed. Maybe not all of them. We may consolidate. We may let some go, so on and so forth. But there's no protection for the farmers. There's a few subsidies they can get. There's a few ways we can help out. But farmers, I mean, I don't see them going anywhere per se. But who's going to continue to work the hours that they work, the hardship that they put into it? Who's going to continue to do that with a 10% decline from 2017 even, which is already low, to an average of $21,000 a year to what they have to do, and then try and do a side job on top of that? I don't know how you do it. I really don't. It's kind of a put it into perspective sort of thing, isn't it, when it comes to teachers and when it comes to farmers? When it comes to, now, both of them are huge assets to society, don't get me wrong, and I'm not devaluing the value of the teacher in any way, shape, or form. I'm putting into perspective that, yes, it is tough right now. Yes, it is a struggle. And in the state of Oklahoma, the legislatures just gave you an 18% raise with close to $6,000. They did that. Kansas, we have a whole nother issue because we need to focus on the school board, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what do the farmers have? How can the farmers actually get that back? That's out of their hands. That's the government when it comes to trade and when it comes to commodity prices. They have no control over the situation.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Saying welcome back into the Voice of Reason, wrapping up hour number 1 across the entire Mid-America Network. We love having you aboard. Welcome in. 6 minutes at the top of the hour. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. All you farmers out there, by the way, in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, New Mexico, Colorado, you guys are nuts. We love you so much. We have no idea how you continue to do what you do. I mean, you could be raking in close to, a couple $100,000 with everything you're doing, but at the end of the day, when you're paying for the seeds, paying for the equipment, paying for the gas, paying for this, paying for that, I mean, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 is a profit at the end of the year. Are you kidding me? Listener on Facebook Live, isn't that all due to corporate farming? I don't know how corporate farming is any different than small farming, small family farming. Now, I mean, I'm not a farmer, obviously, so I wouldn't know that situation per se, but at the same time, I don't know if corporate farming would have any much of a different profit at the end of the day than a small family farm. They're all struggling, and that's the point. They're all struggling, and the real comparison is we're struggling as farmers, we're struggling as engineers, we're struggling as businesses and retail stores, we're struggling as restaurants, we're struggling as X, Y, and Z. The teachers and people on the public dime, they're struggling as well. Should we take care of them? Absolutely. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I am saying, however, that they're not the only ones struggling, and we need to take that in consideration when we start looking at what we're going to do to raise taxes on everybody to take care of them. Because we need to look at it across the board. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones this morning, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Eddie, good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine. There's several things that bothers me about these marchers as far as the students and also the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
With the teachers, they're doing it on a school day. And if they want to march, let them march on a Saturday or a Sunday.
But they wouldn't do that because they'd be too busy playing Halo on Facebook or on video games or something.
But what they're doing, they're teaching their students that it's okay just to skip school and go out and march.
Sure.
And with the students, and I've actually noticed this 2 years ago because I will go to these protests and I'll be in the background and I will study the faces and the emotions, if I can, the people that are marching. And what I've found is, and especially with the ones that are holding up the cameras and videotaping, that it's more of a social event than it is anything else. They could care less what they're marching for as long as they're out there and they have their little cameras up and they're smiling, and then they're going to go home and put it on YouTube.
Sure.
And they're not marching
You're
for
right.
a really specific reason. They're marching because it is a social event.
Oh, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. There are many of them, and I've been to different rallies, especially in college when we'd hold our own rallies and we'd go to other rallies to try and crash them and have some fun. And you're right, it turns into more of the social event to where you're not necessarily there all focused on 100% about the agenda of what's at hand, but you're there and you're chatting with your friends, and then you're trying to see how outlandish you can actually be, and you have the most unique sign or the most fun, catchy sign, and you're taking pictures like that, and then you're trying to start some shenanigans and trying to get people riled up. And it's about chatting and hanging out and doing your thing. And it's especially as high school students, when you walk out of class for 17 minutes, like they did for the March for Our Lives that they want to do again. Now, they are organizing the March for Our Lives this Saturday, so it is going to be on the weekend this weekend, apparently here in the Wichita area. But many of them with the last one during school, if you watched even the video from the ones around Wichita here, you had the student body government and the vice student body government. They were doing the interviews with the media. And then you'd see just different little cliques of students hanging out with their backpacks, just chatting, having a good old time, because they weren't sitting there in solace. They weren't rallied around the people that were actually talking. They were just sitting there hanging out in clips of 5 or 6 people, and then they'd go back to class and it was all done.
And as far as Laura Ingraham goes, it really bothers me when sponsors fail to support a program just because of 1 or 2 people that are yelling. I mean, it's I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And
I agree. How many fans of David Hogg do you think are regular Laura Ingraham listeners anyways?
First of all, in my personal opinion, I think the kid's, 17 years old, something like that?
Yes.
First of all, don't even comment on the kid. Just leave him alone. Just don't. In other words, just ignore him. Just push him off into the corner and ignore the individual, because he's 17 years old and he thinks it's really, 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 really super great what he's doing and all this kind of stuff. But you know what? When I was 18 years old, I joined the Marine Corps. If you want to protest, wow.
Well, that is true. Eddie, I appreciate it, my friend. We got to take a break here, wrapping up the hour number 1. You're right. I mean, don't give him any attention. Here's the thing, though. The kid's got over 350,000 followers on Twitter. 350,000 because of this. People support him. He's now the new face of that revolution. Hang tight. Hour number 2 right around the corner.
It's time for Reason.
And the unions are the ones behind all of it, and it shows the priority is not the children and their education, but it's about we have our own agenda, and unless you give us every single thing we want, we're not content. It's the typical progressive mentality of we get everything, and you better compromise. The terms of negotiation and compromise in today's times of you give us everything or else we will stop and cease all activity and productivity until you give us everything.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, man, welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Great to have you along today. Right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard. Great to have you along today. 8 minutes past the hour. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. What a show we got for you today. In about a half hour from now, we'll have Bryan Frye, Wichita City Councilman, on the show, as we do every Tuesday with our Wichita City update. Tomorrow we'll have our county update with County Commissioner Jim Howell. Also in the 8 o'clock hour today, Peter Murphy. He is the Vice President of hashtag Ed Tax Credit 50 Coalition. Talking about educational tax credits, school choice. In the national debate, when it comes to education. We'll do that in just a little bit. Kind of appropriate, as right now we're seeing the march in Oklahoma that we've talked about, the march in Kentucky and Arizona, the potential marches coming up here in the state of Kansas, along with the debate when it comes to educational finance in our state. I do want to touch on that in a little bit. I want to take a break from the educational debate and discussion as of right now, but there is some news coming out of the legislature. Now that we've gotten that study back, they are scrambling to try and get as much done as they possibly can. The potential bill that was proposed in the House, that was the $500 million additional funding bill over the next 5 years, the $100 million a year for the next 5 years. That one got shot down yesterday. That one is no more. It is dead, and we'll see what we can come up with now. They stayed up late into the wee late hours of the night trying to debate on a new piece of legislation for educational finance. We'll see what comes with that one. We may try and get a legislator on, probably not today, but probably tomorrow. We'll try and get somebody on to discuss that a little bit deeper. But open lines to you right now for the next half hour, 316-721-8255. As you know, the KQAM is an affiliate of the Laura Ingraham program, the Laura Ingraham Show from noon to 2. And as you notice, she's been not there for the last few days. And the reason was because of the hiatus that she's been taking, the quote-unquote vacation that she's taken from both her radio show and her TV show on Fox News, the Ingraham Angle, because of David Hogg, as the 17-year-old student protesting and boycotting and creating a boycott against her advertisers, many of her advertisers being pulled, and Fox News deciding what they will do. Now, according to Variety.com, Fox News says that Laura Ingraham will return. Laura Ingraham will return to the Fox News channel despite a discussion of recent deflections by advertisers for the program she hosts each weeknight. We cannot and will not allow voices to be censored by agenda-driven intimidation efforts, according to the co-president of Fox Cable Outlet. We look forward to having Laura Ingraham back, hosting her program next Monday when she returns from her spring vacation with her children. So there it is. She will be back. The question I have for you is, first off, do you think that someone should have that much power? Someone like a 17-year-old student like David Hogg, whatever you want to call him. I think he pronounces it Hogg. Do you think that a 17-year-old student advocating for a change, trying to start this revolution, trying to change the world, trying to repeal guns, trying to put guns on the legislation, on the ballots to be able to be voted on, trying to repeal the Second Amendment, something so dramatic as to do something like that. Now, I understand we're about a nation to where you, as an individual, have a voice, and we want you to have a voice. We want you to be able to make a change. That is fantastic. But as I said in the last hour, I strongly disagree with other hosts to where they've said, give the kids a break, let them have their voice because we're proud of them actually being activists. I'm proud of them being activists, but if you're advocating for the wrong thing and you do not understand in any way, shape, or form what you're actually trying to change because you don't understand the issue in the first place, you are dangerous. That creates democracy. In democracy, I know that it's said around here is a good thing. It is not a good thing. It is a bad, bad thing. Democracy is dangerous. Under a democratic system, under democracy, it is the majority rules. 51% shuts down the 49%. And that's not the way we run our nation. We have a constitutional republic to where everybody in the country has a voice. David Hogg is advocating for democracy, to where if you get the loudest crowd, if you get the largest crowd, if you can put it on the ballot, and if you can get 51% of naive, ignorant individuals to not understand the purpose of the Second Amendment, to not understand the purpose of shooting a gun, to not understand the role of what having a gun or a militia is all about, to understand what the purpose is, to understand the background check process, to understand what you actually go through to fire a firearm, to understand what kind of protocol you go through when it comes to safety of a firearm, to understand how you store a firearm safely, to understand how you clean a firearm properly, to understand how you shoot a firearm properly. You don't understand because you've never done it. You don't know it. You don't understand it. You don't get it. You've never done it. I've always been one in my personal life to where I'm never going to judge something until I actually experience it myself. I'm never going to judge a movie until I actually watch the movie, regardless of how good or bad the ratings may have been. I'm not going to judge a rally until I've actually been to the rally. I'm never actually going to judge a book until I've actually read the book. I'm not going to do it. And that's the way, at least I try to, the best of my ability. David Hogg has never shot a firearm. I'm assuming. David Hogg has never tried to purchase an AR-15 and understand the process that it takes to go through. David Hogg probably has never walked into a gun store in his entire life. Now, his father was an ex-FBI agent, which means I'm assuming that there were probably firearms around the house. So it even boggles the mind that maybe he's even seen one in person rather than just on a picture, a very, very scary picture online, or maybe a video of people shooting it online. I mean, it could be scary. I don't know. It could be a very scary thing, but to have that much of a voice and say, I'm going to change the world by getting rid of firearms, and we're going to put the Second Amendment on a ballot to repeal, and we're going to change it. To have that much of a voice and not understand the issue, and then to see a mass amount of people rally in unison to actually support that movement because they don't understand either. It is the blind leading the blind. And that happens all across society nowadays in many different cases, not just guns and the Second Amendment and this movement for the safer schools, but it's the blind leading the blind. People who have no idea about an issue, that are completely naive, completely ignorant, leading the charge with a loud voice, and then people saying, oh, hey, that sounds really good. I'm going to rally around them. And they're the sheep that continue to follow. It's the same with like the Bernie Sanders-ites. We support higher taxes. We hate the rich. We're going to take on the corporations. We're going to cap profits for individuals and for businesses. We're going to do an extremely high tax rate because we want to advocate for the betterment of society and betterment of the middle class while at the same time taxing the heck out of them so we can get social programs, so we can take care of them because we're all about socialism, because we never understood that socialism's been a bad thing throughout history. It's never been a terrible thing and has led to abuse of the people, has led to the rights being taken away by the people. It's never led to that, right? Because we're naive. We're ignorant, and we're sheep, and we follow. And someone yells about it and says that it's a good idea because they want to try something different. So all of a sudden, then it's a really good idea because it's something new that they haven't heard before, and they begin to follow it. And then you get people advocating for like the repeal of the Electoral College. It's happening in many different circles in society today, to where we cry and we cry and we cry, and then we try and change it without actually understanding it. And then we have these rallies. We have a rally to repeal the Second Amendment. Hey, that's a great idea. We don't need that anymore. That was done back in 200 years ago. We don't need that anymore. People don't need guns. That's crazy talk. You see people, raise taxes. Let's have the government get all the money. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, we don't like the rich people. They have more than me. I feel really bad about that. And then you see that when they begin to do these cries, then when someone speaks up against them, like Laura Ingraham had done, and say, hey, you're going out and spatting out about this and that and the other. You're saying really outlandish things, and you can't get into college. Gee, I wonder why. It's not confrontational in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. I don't know how she ended up getting hurt on that one. And David Hogg saying, ban her, boycott her sponsors, boycott her advertisers, boycott it, get rid of them, be done with it. Let's be the pitchfork holding crazy ones that don't know anything about the situation but just be fired up and angry, and then we end up boycotting it. So what do? The advertisers pull. That much power can be a good thing, but it also comes with responsibility. You and I have that right in the nation, and we're proud of having that type of ability and that power in the nation by being able to advocate for our agenda and being able to have a voice. That is a good thing, but when it's done in the wrong hands, it's extremely dangerous. And when it's done by individuals that are very, very naive on issues, it's very dangerous, because now we've led to a democracy of bleeding heart, seeing red in the eyes, not caring about the facts or the issues, but just wanting to change it because they're emotional, they're fired up, and they want change now. And that's very dangerous, isn't it? Your thoughts on this? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go to the phones. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, Andy, it's Pam.
Good morning, Pam. How are you today?
Oh, I'm hanging in there.
Good.
I'm just listening to the wind trying to blow us away.
There we are. It's a windy one this morning for sure.
Oh, I've been listening to you, and we don't ever teach the Constitution. These people know nothing about how this country is supposed to be ran. And George Washington, one of his big things was a free people must be a godly people. It has to be a moral society to be free.
Sure.
or we're going to end up with the mess we have.
Well, we need to be godly, we need to be moral, but we need to be responsible with it as well. And if
that's
we're going
what goes along with being moral.
Oh, sure.
You are responsible.
You are responsible.
Because you
right.
are moral.
If you're going to march and if you're going to change something, it is, the power that we have as a people is so much more relevant and so powerful, more powerful than we even think of sometimes, because we just think of going to the voting booth, voting, and then, maybe writing a legislator once in a while, going to a town hall meeting, and that be it. But we have the power to really make some drastic changes. During the civil rights movements, the people that marched and the people that knew something, they knew exactly what they wanted. They had a vision of exactly what they wanted to change, and they made it happen. And it was because of the people. We abuse that system because we take it for granted many times, and I think that's what we're seeing now. Well,
and I thought as adults, it's our job to teach these kids, not to give them a platform to spout so much nonsense that's not true, number one, and he's filthy.
Sure.
I've heard this kid speak. I can't even say his name. I'm like the previous caller. I don't believe he should get that much attention as to have his name even said, because he shouldn't have this platform. He's 17. Who is he to be telling us how to run the country?
Sure.
He has a voice simply because he's an American, I guess.
Exactly. He gets a voice.
He's still a kid.
You're right.
And everything he learned from government schools. I am a big advocate of privatizing all the schools. I don't believe the government should have anything to do with our schools.
I agree.
Let alone have a union.
No, I agree. That's. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, realistically.
No,
but it would
it
would be nice. Definitely something to advocate for and try and push. So you're absolutely right, Pam. I appreciate it very much. You hit it spot on. He has the voice, and I'm glad that you and I are able to have a voice, and even a young child and a student to be able to have a voice and to voice their opinion. But with someone that naive on an issue, to have such a loud voice on the issue, because that's what, first off, activists have been wanting to hear. Second off, people that don't understand and think it's cute or think it's emotional or think it's courageous end up backing it, and someone that shouldn't have a voice on necessarily a topic because they don't understand the topic or understand the issue, because they're not an expert, they haven't studied constitutional law, they haven't shot a firearm in their life, they haven't been around it, all of a sudden they're now the leading voice of the movement for it. That's a dangerous thing, and that's why it comes down to, like Pam mentioned, the godly moral side of it, but the responsibility that comes with the powerful voice that you and I have. With power comes responsibility, and we've forgotten the responsibility part in society in many different forms. This is exactly a prime example of that. Let's go back to the phones here and take a phone call, shall we? Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Sean.
Sean, what's happening, sir?
Oh, not too much. Just blowing across the road here with the wind. But anyway, I don't believe that your basic premise that he has too much power. Remember, nobody has power unless it's given to them by others.
Sure.
That's just something that's bestowed upon you, either because they believe in you or whatever. But here's the deal. In reality, everybody has their own level of power. It's never been equal. If you're president, you actually get a name for it. It's called the bully pulpit. Why? Because you have power. People get to listen to you more.
Sure.
It's just part of, that's life. And I'm not going to get worked up about that. As far as this David Hogg kid, I don't doubt his passion on the subject. Misguided, from my point of view, misguided, yes. But, I think he's passionate. He went through an event, similar to you, that you talked about. Just he was affected in a different way than you. And that's okay. In a free society, I'm glad he gets to express that. And I don't think we should limit how much he gets to express it simply because either he's misguided or he disagrees with me, that it should be limited. Now, that being said, I don't think David Hogg even realizes it, despite I believe that he believes in what he's saying. But he's got handlers who are just absolutely using him to their personal advantage.
Exactly.
I don't even know who his handlers are, but He has handlers. There's no way you get this kind of attention simply because you made one speech before your classmates, and now it's blossomed into, showing up on TV constantly every time we turn and being talked about in Wichita, Kansas on KQAM. That doesn't just happen.
Sure.
That happens because there's a machine behind you. He doesn't realize that he's being used, okay? And they're just sitting there saying, oh, yeah, David, you just say what you need to say. We're here. Meanwhile, somebody's making a whole bunch of money off of him.
Exactly.
A whole bunch of money.
Exactly.
And
here's the thing, and I want to piggyback off there because you're absolutely right. I mean, you're right. He's very passionate about it, and good for him because he's passionate. He's gone through an ordeal, and he's being used as a puppet, and he doesn't see that. And all the credit to him for being passionate about it. The point that I'm trying to make is you're right. The power, and you said it perfectly. The power that he has is because the power that's been given to him by the makers and the wheels and deals behind him, but also the people that have rallied around him thinking that his idea is a good thing. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that the people that are the quote-unquote sheep that don't understand it, that think it sounds really, really nice because they're emotional about his passion behind this, that they've rallied behind him, not understanding the issue, and they've given him the power that he has because they think it's a good idea instead of actually being responsible and actually understanding and doing a little research on the issue. So it's either politically driven or it's emotionally driven. Either one of them are very dangerous because they've given him power when they probably shouldn't have done so.
Sure, but here's the good news. The liberals and the people that rile up all these sheep, these sheep have always been there. They've always been there.
Sure.
The good news is we are one crisis away from not even remembering who David Hogg was. He will go away so much faster than he rose to the scene as soon as there's some new crisis to worry about. Let's think about it. What was it, 6 months ago? If even that, Me Too was the biggest thing ever. We were going to change the world with hashtag Me Too.
Sure.
Well, does anybody Me Tooing anymore?
No, that's a great point. It's kind of dying off. Sean, I hate to cut you off, my friend. We got to take a break, but you're right. I agree with you 110%. I mean, it is a fad. It is a trend. And by the way, the young generation loves the fads and the trends anyways. So you're right. I mean, we're going to see in a couple months, in a couple weeks, in a couple something, there's going to be another catastrophe. Hopefully not another school shooting, but there'll be something else that happens. We'll forget all about this. We'll move on. And then he'll be trying to relive the limelight all over again. It's just our responsibility as a people to hold ourselves accountable, responsible, and to create movements that are educated, that are direct, and that actually have a motive to actually do something good. And that's our responsibility instead of giving someone like that power, which many people have done. Appreciate the call. We got some more on the line. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. We'll get to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Bottom of the hour news coming up. Went a little long in that last segment. That's all right. When we come back, our city update with City Councilman Bryan Frye. Lots to get to today. It is The Voice of Reason on a Tuesday. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier, your personal political therapist. Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Make it happen today. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Lots happening. We love all the phone calls, love the conversation. It's a lot of fun. Welcome aboard. Let's start off your day better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink right here on The Voice of Reason. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. But it is that time for our city update.
We built this city.
As we have our city council member from the Wichita City Council, Mr. Bryan Frye, back with us. Bryan, what's happening, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Andy.
Welcome aboard.
Man, it was tough to get out of bed this morning.
It's a little dreary out today.
It's a little chilly. I could hear my bed saying, "Baby, come back."
I like that. Well, yeah, that happens to me every morning at 4 a.m. So
I'm sure
I'm
it
just
does.
I could just roll back over and it's nice and warm and cozy.
Yep, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
No, thanks again for having me here. I enjoy this every week.
I love having you come in every week. There's so many things happening with the city, and we had a great discussion last week when we were talking about the library and the movement of the library and some of the things happening that way, and especially getting into the summer season with some of the pool issues. I know last week was a little bit slower of a a city council meeting.
Right. Yeah,
but,
it was a
how'd it
consent
go?
meeting.
Yeah.
So everything went really well. I mean, consent meetings are typical short meetings, and that was fine. This week we have a much meatier agenda. We got some really cool happenings, and I'll just get right into it. Certainly we always have our proclamations, which this week we have 5 of them, and that's kind of unusual, but it's that time of year where everybody starts really wanting to celebrate different things. And then we always have our public agenda, where, again, we've got, I think, 5 speakers today.
Okay.
And we allow that every meeting to, if the public want to come on and talk about various different things, and that's fine. And so today we've got 5. But then we get right into really cool expansion, Metal Fab, Inc., and they make metal parts for HVAC companies and so forth. And they've got a great expansion coming up where they're adding 2 buildings, about 60,000 square feet, adding another 13 jobs. So great expansion for them. And they're down in southwest Wichita. So, again, continued success for our Wichita companies and seeing them expand and grow. And then we've got something that's really cool. And, everybody always complains about roads in Wichita, right? The condition of our roads.
Sure.
And there's a lot of delayed maintenance that the city did for several years. But within the last couple of years, we've taken renewed impetus on making sure we're taking care of the streets. And we realized that if we take better care of the roads, they last a lot longer, right?
Sure.
It's like your home, right? The more you take care of it and the more maintenance you do to it, the longer it lasts and you get more out of it. So a few years ago, we were putting about $6 million a year into street maintenance. Now, understand that we have about 5,100 lane miles in Wichita. We're not going to be able to treat every road every year. So we have to be very particular and very specific about what we do.
Things around sometimes, sure.
Right. And so this year, we're going to vote today on the next phase, what we call our Pavement Preservation Program, our P3. And this will allow us to put about $8.5 million into road maintenance. And this is things like concrete and asphalt repair, crack seal. You see those big thick lines where there's a crack in the asphalt where we come back in and we put asphalt in that and overlay, micro seal. So these are going to allow us to treat about 410 lane miles. So a pretty good dent, roughly 10% of our overall lane miles. But this is on top of the $10 million that we dedicated last year from the Hyatt proceeds. Remember when we sold the Hyatt, we sold that for $20 million.
Sure.
We dedicated half of that to road maintenance and continuing to improve our streets. And when we have residential streets, collectors, arterials, highways, we got a lot of road surface. And so between the $10 million from the Hyatt last year and the $8.5 million this year, we've made a pretty good dent in road maintenance. And I think in the year 2019 or maybe 2020, that annual budget jumps up to $10 million a year. So again, we're taking better care of the roads that we have, and you're starting to see the improvements. What you are going to see, though, is a lot more orange cones.
Sure.
And it's the season for it, right? That's when you do the road maintenance.
Spring and summertime. That's right. It's going to be coming soon.
All right. So it translates to about $1.5 million per district, and it is spread out throughout the city. Down south, you have more concrete repairs. Some of the newer divisions, you have more asphalt repairs. But again, it's spread out evenly across the city. So pretty significant investment in taking care of our streets. Again, you'll have to put up with some orange cones, but in the end of the day, again, smoother, better roads, better maintenance, better care of your city's assets.
And that's what we really need. Now, here's the question. I know you said that with the money allotted with the programs that we have, it's really about 10% of the highway or the roads that we have in the city. Are we on a good cycle right now to where each year when we have different projects in different areas and we're doing about 10% of that, I mean, we're in a good cycle to where while we're doing that 10%, the rest of them are pretty nice, and by the next year, it's ready for the next piece that needs some new revitalization, and we're kind of in a good cycle to where that 10% is really a happy flow throughout the city.
Absolutely. Again, this is something that we're being very specific and strategic about. It didn't used to be that way. There was a lot of delayed infrastructure, so we're having to play some catch up. Certainly, the Hyatt money helped greatly.
Sure.
And again, it's better off to maintain Sorry, we got a hay rake in here trying to.
There we are. Oh, yeah, they're doing that's right. You guys always do a competition with your socks, don't you? Yeah, there you go.
So yes, we are making headway on getting into a better cycle of things. Like I said, the Hyatt money helped greatly, but again, just trying to take better care of what we have, getting in that better cycle of things, and being able to put in a maintenance program that allows us longer term, instead of having to always build new roads, taking better care of what we have.
Well, there's a big difference, too, between, sometimes having to take away some of the asphalt and repave it and actually make it that way, as opposed to some of the quick asphalt or the cold asphalt where you just kind of fix the pothole in that sense. I mean, there's a big difference because that cold stuff, the temporary stuff, it really is only temporary. And you're going to see that again, as opposed to actually just repaving that area and actually making it sustainable for a good long time.
Yeah. No, we've just getting a lot more strategic and a lot smarter about what we're doing. We've got new technology and being able to identify treatment opportunities that we didn't used to do 5-10 years ago. So technology's helped a lot. And then the final thing I'd like to mention real quick, and this is a cool thing, we're talking about the weather getting better and people getting outside, whether it be a swimming pool. This one has to relate to our golf program. So we're partnering, our Park and Recreation Department is partnering with a group called First Tee. And First Tee is a development program for youth to get into golf and learn the game and start to become players. They're going to build a driving range at McDonald Golf Course, and it's going to be built for the city, and we're going to operate it, and we're going to be able to realize the revenue from that driving range to help the golf system. So this is a great partnership, public-private partnership, where they're building the driving range for us. They're going to be able to host their program, but then we get the revenue from the driving range.
Sure.
So it's a great win for everyone. We'll be able to cultivate and create young golfers. We'll be able to create revenue for the golf system, and it's all donated in partnership with First Tee.
I've noticed there's a lot of golf around this area. A lot of people love their golf.
This is one of those communities that golf per capita is higher than most communities. And we've got some great courses, whether it's the public courses that the city owns or the private courses in the country clubs. Wichita's blessed with some great golf.
Sure. Is this the first year that you guys are starting this program, or is it something that's been going on for a while?
No, this First Tee partnership's brand new. And again, they approached us and said, we'd like to build this facility in McDonald, which is over near 13th and Oliver, which is one of our oldest courses. It's over 100 years old.
Wow.
It was originally a country club, but we've had space for this driving range, and it's always been in our desire to do it. We just didn't have the funds for it. So First Tee said, we want to develop youth golf, and this is the way the program can work, but we need a driving range.
Sure.
So this is a great partnership. Again, it's not costing the city anything other than routine maintenance, but we get a great asset, and we're able to create revenue, which is about $50,000 a year.
Not too bad.
That goes back into the golf system. So it's a win-win all the way around.
We do have a caller for you. Let's go ahead and take that, 316-721-8255. If you have a question for the city councilman, anything on the city pertaining to that, we'd love to be able to take that for you in a few minutes here. Let's go to the phones. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Hey, good morning, Scott. What's happening?
Well, it's very interesting that you have, golf courses. And I'm sure if I looked in the paper, they'd probably have advertisement in the one ad for jobs in golf courses. But my concern is that when the city had the ability to facilitate an atmosphere for jobs such as the Tyson plant, which was going to bring 1,500 jobs, they didn't do that, but they were able to facilitate the atmosphere for the college basketball games downtown. So we know they have the capability of doing it. It's just they need to do it for long-lasting economic development.
Well, and I appreciate the call, Scott. I know that there's a lot of opportunity that we've talked about a little bit with economic development. Now, the Tyson plant, that was more of a county issue than it was really the city of Wichita, wasn't it?
Right. They were wanting to build that outside the city limits. It never actually came to us as a council with any request for anything because it was all being outside of the city. But I understand the county decided to pass on it for various reasons. You'd have to ask them as to specifically why.
Sure.
But I wished we would have been able to been more involved with that opportunity because I think a community to be successful has to have a wide range of jobs. Not everybody is going to be suited for the white-collar professional job. You need a variety of income levels, a variety of jobs to make a successful community.
Sure.
It would have been a great addition. but I just don't know what the specifics as to what they needed.
Sure, exactly. Now, when it comes to the economic development in the city, I know that you guys have started focusing on downtown a little bit, as you mentioned. Some of the jobs that we're seeing Spirit Aero Systems. We're seeing a lot of these different aviation sides. We're seeing potentially new industries coming into the Wichita area. It's taken some time, and I think that has a lot to do with the state of Kansas as well that's been struggling a little bit with industry coming in. But we're starting to see a little bit of growth, are we not?
Actually, we are in one of those very enviable positions for a city. We have more jobs than people right now. Our manufacturers, whether it be aviation related or the actual aviation manufacturers themselves, are in desperate need of qualified, skilled workers.
Sure.
And I understand that Spirit last year had to hire 1,500 positions that were retiring. And you think about that, they've got about 10,000 employees out there,
sure,
and 1,500 were retiring. And so they had to go find replacement workers to take those jobs that were highly skilled jobs. That wasn't an easy task.
Sure.
On top of that, they've launched a new program where they need to hire 1,000 more employees. So, again, we've got that position right now where we've got great jobs available.
We got to get the people.
We got to get people here. And so that's our task, and that's what Greater Wichita Partnership is working on. You're going to see a lot this year on recruitment and retention, trying to make sure people are filling the jobs and they're telling their friends and family about the great opportunity that Wichita has. And so we're going to be marketing not only to our locals to get the word out, but then also we're going to target some cities that have those type of skilled workers that we can bring to Wichita. It's a great position to be in.
But it really is.
It's a challenging one.
It is. And mentioning the partnership, I know we got about a minute or so left here, but I do want to mention I was at the Governor's Forum last week for the Republican governorships, and they were talking about a lot of the partnerships and trying to really focus on the retainment and the education, not just with higher education, but with a lot of the trade schools and technical schools, so that way we can retain those. And we have that diversity of the job force here. And I know that the Wichita Technical Institute working with WSU is a great opportunity, and the Wichita Greater Partnership, I mean, that's a huge opportunity for us to work with the businesses and the educational systems as well to start training a lot of the students at the young generation on the workforce that we're lacking right now.
Right. I mean, a 4-year degree is not for everyone.
Sure.
Right. And so WSU Tech is a great program that allows someone who might not be a 4-year college student, but has got the desire and the capacity to learn maybe a new trade, a new skill that's in demand.
Exactly.
We've got a program out there at WSU Tech. You can take an 8-week course on sheet metal and walk right into a job.
Right.
I mean, that's fantastic, right?
That's what we need.
Exactly. So WSU Tech's got a great opportunity for those that want an alternative way to find a career, and they're bursting at the seams out there. So
sure.
We're very blessed.
We're making it happen. The meeting today, if anybody wants to go, if they want to listen to everything, ask questions, how can they show up?
So meeting starts at 9 a.m. at Central and Main. And then you can also, there's a live stream available on wichita.gov if you can't make it out. And then we also archive all of our meetings on wichita.gov as well. So, but we encourage public to come down and listen to, the meetings typically last a couple of hours on a normal day. So
sure. It's going to be a fun one. Bryan Frye, Wichita City Council member. Always great to have you on, my friend. We love talking to you every week. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
Appreciate it, Andy. Thank you.
Great times. 10 minutes at the top of the hour. We'll take a break, wrap up hour number dos. This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Wrapping up hour number 2 already right here on the Voice of Reason. Great to have you along. About 4 minutes to the top of the hour. 316-721-8255. Thanks again to Bryan Frye, Wichita City Councilman, joining. This is your chance. I don't know anybody else, anywhere else that you can do this on a regular basis, a weekly basis. I know there are other talk shows in town, other talk stations that get info out there, but at the same time, for us to have the long extended dialogue, to be able to ask questions, make your point, to be able to respond or to ask questions about things that may be concerning you, both at the city and the county. Tomorrow, County Commissioner Jim Howell will be joining us. Looking forward to chatting with him as we do every week as well. Hour number 3 coming up in a minute. We'll shift gears a little bit. We'll talk about really whatever you want to. We do have Peter Murphy. He is with the hashtag ed reform, educational reform, school choice, talking about the national debate with the National Department of Education, what they're going through, and ways that we can start reforming education. I am really excited to chat with him coming up. Plus, I have not talked about it yet, and we will talk about the constitutional amendment being proposed at the statewide level. The legislature is finally beginning to discuss it. They voted down the $500 million educational budget plan yesterday, and kind of a shocker, actually. The Republicans proposed that one. They created it, well, Republicans as in moderate Republicans, but they created the legislation trying to appease the Supreme Court. The governor coming out, Governor Collier, saying that he would support that one because he thought that maybe since it wasn't the $2 billion, that it was a little more rational, that we were increasing money than we were focusing on the actual where the spending's going, focusing on the priority of understanding money's not going to solve our problem sort of thing. And he was happy with it. He said, get it to my desk and let's make this happen. That one not going through yesterday. So we'll talk about why that one didn't go through, what kind of bill we may see potentially, and what's going to come along with the constitutional amendment. Will we see it? The Democrats, the progressives, they're saying that that's the panic mode that the Republicans are in by creating a constitutional amendment, and that they are desperate to try and do that because they're not going to be able, or they don't feel that they have the need to focus on more spending across the board. So we'll touch on all that. Plus, we did get our income or our tax revenue receipts for the month of March. I cannot believe the March is done already. April here already. Tax time is around the corner. You're going to be owing your taxes to the state of Kansas. They are looking at potentially more tax increases, and we'll see where we're at with that latest discussion as well. As far as I'm aware of, we're not seeing any other discussions when it comes to the Second Amendment. Potentially more gun debates coming soon. I don't know. I think the legislators are off next week. And if that's the case, next week is going to be a week where we're going to get as many as we can in studio with us for extended periods of time to discuss what's going to happen with our legislation in our legislative session for the end of the year. Lots more coming up. This is your show. As always, it's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 3, The Voice of Reason, coming up. Stay here.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
And the unions are the ones behind all of it, and it shows the priority is not the children and their education, but it's about we have our own agenda, and unless you give us every single thing we want, we're not content. It's the typical progressive mentality of we get everything, and you better compromise. The terms of negotiation and compromise in today's times of you give us everything or else we will stop and cease all activity and productivity until you give us everything.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Hour number 3 of the Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today here on the Big Talker. 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. Great to have you with us. Good morning. Welcome aboard. Better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink right here on the program. The Facebook Live feed's also rolling. You can shoot me a message there. Leave a comment. Ask a question. Whatever you want to do. We'd love to be able to hear from you. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. The Twitter at Hoosier Reason, which I should probably bring up today because who knows, Donald Trump may tweet something fun and we need to read it off here. Let's get to our guests. I am really excited. As you know, we've been talking about the last couple of days of the educational debate in the state of Kansas. The latest research study, according to certain organizations and certain groups, saying that we need an additional $2 billion sunk into our educational program for the state of Kansas because we are insufficiently funding our public education system. Oklahoma, we saw the teachers rallying day number 2 now, over 200 schools being shut down in the state of Oklahoma as they are rallying, as they are marching. And this is after, by the way, the legislation last Friday passed by the legislature, signed by the governor to give them a $6,000 pay raise when it comes to their incomes. It's not enough. They're still shutting down the schools. What else is going to happen? We're seeing the protests in Kentucky. We're seeing the protests in Arizona. It's across the board. There are a lot of individuals in the public sector that are just not happy. And with its between the teachers not focusing on the classroom necessarily. Now, some are, and I'm not trying to trash teachers in any way, shape, or form here. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. But we need to focus the classroom. The local school boards need to focus their resources and the money in the classroom, not on the administrators. Luckily, we're seeing potentially some good opportunities at the federal level to start weeding out some of the Common Core curriculums, some of the regulations, and some of the massive Department of Education overhaul that we've seen on that front. And to talk to us about all this and more, he's Vice President of Invest in Education Coalition, Mr. Peter Murphy, on the line with us here. Peter, good morning to you.
Andy, good morning to you. Thanks for having me on.
I really appreciate you coming on here. It's the perfect time to chat with you about all this. First off, before we get into what you guys do and what we can start doing to reform our K-12 educational system, what's your take on all of these marches and walkouts that the teachers are having right now advocating for the higher salaries? I mean, is this justified? Is that what we need to be focusing on right now? Or is it a distraction from the focus that we need to have in the classroom with our children?
Well, I'm not privy to the specifics in each of the states, but the fact that this is happening in so many areas, in a congressional election year, in a gubernatorial election year for most of the state, most of the nation's governors, this is not an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very coordinated effort to drive anger and drive turnout and just act in a very brazen fashion, no matter how many kids suffer from it.
Well, it's
our
true.
teachers, quote, underpaid in Kansas or Oklahoma. It's not for me to say, on this call.
Sure.
But again, when it's happening in multiple places like this, and it's something I heard in the news, or maybe you, the news broadcast about the claim of education is being underfunded. Well, by whose yardstick is education being underfunded?
Right.
I mean, it's the most loaded rhetorical terminology. We've heard it in New York for years. That all these years, when all these legislators from both parties could not, were tripping all over each other to spend money on education because it's the biggest employer usually back in their home districts, right? The school districts are typically the largest employers in most of these districts.
Sure.
That don't have big commercial centers. Legislators trip all over themselves to bring more money back for education. And yet, after 30, 40 years of that, why somehow, in the case of New York City, why we're underfunded.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very familiar, bogus term that I've been hearing for years. It's never enough. And here's the other thing I would point out, again, from my experience primarily in New York State, that, who, by the way, is the home state of the current AFT president, Randy Weingarten. She was the New York City Teachers Union president. She's now national. So she cut her teeth in New York City. But the point is that what's happened with education funding, and I believe that as long as public employees, in particular teachers, have this guaranteed pension system where no matter how the stock market does, no matter what, no matter how much money you put in, you are guaranteed a specific amount of retirement, for life. Once you retire, you get the same check, and for the net, however long you live.
Sure.
Well, guaranteed pensions are a very, very costly thing to sustain. And what's happening is that to guarantee those pensions, you have to put up a lot of money up front, to meet the actuarial demands of a guaranteed pension, as opposed to a 401k plan, for instance, that almost all of the rest of America has to fund themselves. And what happens is the more you put into a teacher's retirement, the less you're putting into a teacher's salary, the less you're putting into the classroom. So I think these guaranteed pensions are the problem.
It's a major issue.
Money to fund retirement and not fund the teaching of children now. And frankly, if teachers think they're underpaid salary-wise, well, blame it on their pension, blame it on their fringe benefits, because that's what's eating up the additional funds that are put into education. It's not going into salary as much as it has to go into these other things that they don't take home in their checks right now. So
well, you're right.
They don't, of course, they never want to give on the pension. Oh, don't touch my pension. Well, the money's not sitting in a vault to just hand out.
Sure. No, you're right. I mean, it's a major financial burden on many of the states. I mean, we see the state of Illinois, who is trying to go through their struggles because of the pension plans that they have for all of their public employees, including teachers. Colorado is starting to go through the same thing. Here in Kansas, the pensions are something that we have not necessarily focused on necessarily in the mainstream discussion as so much as the salaries of, which we focus a lot of about this on the show. 53% of the entire state budget of the state of Kansas goes towards the educational funding. The local school boards end up not giving the money necessarily to the teachers for the classroom or for the resources or for their salaries, where they're struggling to make a $30,000-$40,000 income when it comes to their salary. The administrators are turning around with a superintendent making almost $300,000 with an end of the year bonus. And I think that we need to start focusing on the priorities of where the money's actually going, which really drives home the point that you guys actually talk about with the Invest in Education Coalition of maybe this is the time that we should start looking at some of the school choice options with charter schools or private schools or other options instead of continuously sinking money into a bottomless pit that is K through 12, where we're still seeing lower than we need graduation rates. We're still seeing the educational graduation levels still at lower to where we need to do the remedial classes when we go to higher education. We're not getting the education that we need while sinking massive amounts of money into this.
When teachers are demanding in a state like I think it was Kansas, I heard on the news, give us $2 billion more.
Yes.
$2 billion is a lot of money.
Yep.
In a state like Kansas, it's a lot of money in a state like New York, and it's just insane that again, it's not sitting in a vault. And to penalize children, to do harm to their education when parents are locked into the school district. It's like, we're not talking about a bunch of upper income and wealthy parents who can just pull their kids out and put them in a private school setting. Parents are being held hostage because they have no other choice than, where they live, just where to send their child to school. And so, if this keeps up, I mean, not that I would want something like this to keep up, but to me, it highlights the need for parents to have options. If this employer, if this customer service provider, and that's ultimately what education is, that's what teachers are, if they're going to treat their customers this way, well, then I want to take my business somewhere else. Mm-hmm. It's the same concept. If any business treated their customers this way and said, the heck with you, well, then parents need something else. And I know Kansas has a very modest scholarship tax credit program, which is an excellent vehicle to encourage charitable donations to go into scholarship funds to serve more children and parents to help them financially choose a private school the way upper income and wealthy can. That's something that needs to be expanded. We're working on that at the national level to try and get more charitable donations into these scholarship funds to spread to more families of modest means, low income and working class families. That needs to be expanded so parents don't have to be held hostage by a teachers union that's I would submit to you this is more about a political agenda in an election year than it is about the bottom line on labor negotiations. That's just my contention. I've seen this going on for a long time.
No, that's exactly what we need. I'm glad you brought up the federal level, because the question really comes up is what can we do to begin this transition? We're being pushed to the brink through the public K through 12 education. We're going to see, you're right. I mean, you did see that where the research study that came out of Kansas said that we need close to $2 billion, $1.7 billion in additional funding over the next couple of years to reach a 95% graduation rate, which would put us number one in the country, by the way, when it comes to that as well. But they're talking about doubling our property taxes. They're talking about more sales tax, and we're already number 7 in the country for the highest sales tax. We're talking about massive tax increases after we did massive tax increases last year. We're going to be pushed to the brink. The question is the change that we need to see when it comes to the more of the options. Is it going to be done at the local levels here in the state or in the districts, or is it something that we could be focusing on with the federal Department of Education and begin some of the reforms on that level as well?
Well, it's got to be focused at every level of government. And what happens is some states have done something like a K-12 scholarship program really well. Arizona, Pennsylvania has, Illinois just passed something. And but a lot of states have difficulty doing it because of the teacher unions' political influence at the state legislative level. So we're pursuing a national K-12 scholarship. So every child in every state can have access to scholarship funds. Until you have something national like that, to really get money flowing to parents, this is the best means to do it, because by changing the tax code, you're in effect putting in a permanent change. You're not relying on annual appropriations, annual budget fights. And as well, you're not creating this Department of Education bureaucracy that's sort of dictating, well, you've got the money, now you have to do this, that, or the other thing. You have to do Common Core or Race to the Top or No Child Left Behind. None of that applies here.
Right.
It's simply using the tax code administered by the Treasury Department and encouraging private sector activity to flow to direct funding to parents' pockets, so they can fund a better educational alternative to their child and not be held hostage by teacher union leadership, which is what this is. This is a political agenda. And this idea that $2 billion, if we only had that, then everything would be fine, not hardly. And again, I've seen this play out in New York, where about a dozen years ago, there was this big court case that somehow New York City schools were underfunded. Now, New York City, think about that. Think of the commercial property
Sure.
that think of what that produces for the city of New York, all right? Well, that somehow, for decades, who knew? They weren't funding their schools adequately. Billions of dollars in additional money poured into those schools, and they're still complaining. They still claim they're $4 billion short.
It's never enough.
It's just unbelievable. It never ends. And so parents need a way out of this political morass, because their children's education and their lives are at stake.
What kind of response are you getting at the federal level with these scholarship programs that you guys are pushing? Are you getting a good response from it? Are the teachers' unions and some of the activists on that side really blocking it? How's the response been receptive up there?
The response has been good, and we're working every week to Congress is a big place. There's a lot of competing interests, a lot of issues that just compete with one another. So we're having a weekly effort on this, talking to members, talking to staff, and what Congress did do back in December was it enacted a change in the 529 college savings program to allow savings, tax-free savings, to be used for K-12 tuition. That was a very important step forward. So we're inching forward on this. That was a good first step. We don't want to stop there. The 529 college savings program, to be able to use savings to pay for K-12 tuition, is something, again, that can open up opportunities for parents' children, especially when they may need something better before they get to college. I mean, you can't go to college until you graduate high school, college ready. I mean, that's really the ideal situation. This will help some parents with that. But we've got to keep pushing. There is resistance to doing this. And until folks, until we can get that pressure built on members of Congress in both parties, we're going to keep plugging away, and it's really become more, the need is really more acute when you think of this multi-state political effort at, frankly, holding our kids hostage.
Sure.
It's unacceptable, and parents, again, need a way out. They need an alternative.
Absolutely. Peter Murphy, Vice President of the Invest in Education Coalition, working on some of those plans at the federal level, trying to make a change, trying to actually make education better. If people want to reach out, learn more about you guys, help out in any way or shape or form, how can they do so with the Invest in Education Coalition?
Well, our website is investineducation.org, investineducation.org, and they can also find more information on our scholarship tax credit plan at edtaxcredit50.org. That's edtaxcredit50.org.
I love it. Peter, I really appreciate you coming on the show, my friend. It's a big issue, especially here in the Mid-America region, Kansas, Oklahoma, where we broadcast right now with the protests happening in Oklahoma, potentially protests that sounds like that may start up here in Kansas with that $2 billion in education. I don't know where we're going to get that money. So I appreciate you coming on and helping us out a little bit, and we'd love to get you back on the show again later on.
Andy, thanks for having me. I look forward to it. Have a great day.
Hey, appreciate it very much. 23 minutes past the hour. We'll open up lines to you when we come back. Your thoughts and calls. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. 29 minutes past the hour. Appreciate Peter Murphy joining the program. We'll get more information on him a little bit later. We'll get him back on the show again as well. As a great conversation, great information as we start talking about some of the school choice options, what we can do to make our education system a better place. Latest on Twitter, state of Kansas, HB 4445, year-over-year increases when it comes to our overall state budget. 6-year total, $823 million. That's just the start of what their latest budget proposal looks like. 6-year budget increase of almost $1 billion. Are you ready for that tax increase? Where's that going to come from? We'll talk about that when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
Wichita's fastest growing radio show.
Something big is going on, and the American people need to know what.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Making it happen today. Welcome in. Wrapping up the show. 36 minutes past the hour. It is open lines to you for the last half hour. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Thanks again to Peter Murphy, Vice President of the Invest in Education Coalition. We got some calls on the line. I do want to rattle this off really quickly for you, though, first. As we did, the Kansas House of Representatives did reject the $500 million plan to increase in public school education over the next 5 years. Now, as we know, it wasn't quite $500 million. It was actually more than that, but they did vote that one down. They worked late into the night last night working on new plans, and from what it sounds like, according to State Representative Melissa Rooker from District Number 25, she just posted about 2 hours ago on her Twitter, too much or not enough. This is the financial package we're debating in the House today. Year-over-year increase starting this year of the 2017 to 2018 year, meaning we're already in the middle of it right now, for the 6 years going from there and 6 years out for a 6-year total of an increase of $823 million in additional funding. $823 million in additional funding. Is that enough? Is that too much? Your thoughts on that? 316-721-8255. Now, obviously, our response is that's way too much because we don't want a single penny in additional spending until we actually start deregulating, we start cutting taxes, we start downsizing government entities, and we start growing the economy. Then we can look at increasing some of the spending at the state level when the revenues actually reflect that. But that's not what they were going to do. They're not going to want to do that. They don't like that idea, and everybody so far that's responded to that tweet on State Representative Melissa Rooker's page says it's never enough. Give them more, give them more, give them more. We need more. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. Why we're even asking this? We should be able to give them the money. That's the movement that we're in right now. Now, there is the constitutional amendment that they are still debating with the state legislature taking control and really micromanaging the educational funding formula so that way the Kansas Supreme Court can kind of be knocked off that. Representative John Carmichael says that that's just a desperate attempt for the Republicans. The fast-moving plan, according to the Topeka Capital Journal, plans to absolve the legislature of its constitutional requirement to fund public schools and could reach the House floor next week. The resolution introduced Thursday of last week would rather alter the Kansas Constitution to allow the legislature to determine how much money is needed to provide a suitable education and prevent courts from considering the issue. Representative John Carmichael, Democrat from the Wichita area, said the amendment is a desperate play by Republican leaders who procrastinated while placing their bets on the report, which was revealed just a few weeks ago. Quote, "It's no secret that the concept of a constitutional amendment had been on the minds of the legislators since the very first day, but it's only when the chickens have come home to roost." Oh, don't you love that phrase? When the Taylor report arrives, that now finally this bad idea is being submitted for a committee's consideration. You're right. If they would have come out, I mean, what's wrong with that? Is there something wrong with waiting and having the plan ready but seeing what the response is going to be? Because any commonsensical individual would have understood, number one, the numbers are faulty when it came to that report, that the districts and their outlay of how many students are actually in each district and who needs to be funded is completely absurd. They admit at the same time that they're saying we need $1.7, $1.9 billion into educational funding, they admit in the program, in the report, that says that right now we should be at close to a 91, 92% graduation rate. We're at 86%. With the funding we have right now, they admit that throwing money at the issue is not going to solve the issue. They admit it. But yet they still advocate for another $2 billion. So the Democrats are all loving it, all giddy, all happy. Yep, you know what? Our Supreme Court told us so. Your report that you funded told us so. We better get the money. And the Republicans are now saying, we've been holding on to this. We were hoping that we'd have a different result, to rub it in your face to say, yeah, we don't need a whole lot of money. You're not going to listen to it, obviously. Here's the time to draw this out. And it's time that we do so. Maybe we can do something now. Maybe the Republicans, instead of trying to create a package of $500+ million in funding, maybe we can do something a little more substantial by actually creating a constitutional amendment saying, Supreme Court, you have no authority. We decide on our end. And with the Republican majority, then we can start cutting some of the funding, appropriating it in the places that it needs to, and putting the pressure on the local school boards. And isn't that what we need to be doing? Your thoughts on this and more. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, this is Helen.
Helen, how are you today?
Doing just great.
Good.
I agree. Pam and I are in agreement. Our kids need to be taught the Constitution and our civil rights, and they don't respect civil rights of the individual. That you know, their rights end when our rights begin. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the Fifth Amendment says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property. This goes along with our government. And which also that agrees with the 10th commandment: "Thou shalt not covet anything that is thy neighbor's." They want our guns. They want our money. It's just terrible.
You're right. It really brings it into perspective of the fact that we are not being taught, and I mean, we go round and round and round about this educational funding. The fact is that even when they are in that classroom, are they being taught the Constitution, and not in the sense of the founders and the writers of the Constitution are just a bunch of property owners, landowners, bigots, racists, slave owners, yada, yada, yada. But they're actually being taught, this is what our constitutional law says, this is what it is, and this is what we need to abide by and follow. Now we need to apply that into the real world today. I don't think very many schools are actually doing that today.
They just don't. They're not taught to respect other people's individual rights. They think that, oh gosh, you know, we can cry and demand for anything that we want, mm-hmm. and with the government's help, we're going to get it. Well, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Not the way it works. You're absolutely right, Helen. I appreciate that very much. It's a great point. I mean, right now with David Hogg, with the movement that's going on right now, with the March for Our Lives, with the anti-gun legislation, with the movement right now of saying that we have the right to freedom of speech. Remember, because they're students, they're children, they're Americans. They get the right to freedom of speech. I'm not saying that they don't. But there has been a movement lately that says we have the right to freedom of speech, and everybody does, as long as it doesn't offend me. And now I get to set the terms on what actually offends me and what doesn't offend me. So you can go ahead and say things, and then once I tell you stop because that offends me and now you're no longer allowed to say that, I get to set that arbitrary line, and that's where your freedom of rights actually end. I get to continue on because I'm not offended by what I say, but if you say something that offends me, then all of a sudden that's now bigotry, that's hate speech, that's fascism, and you're not allowed to say that, so now we can take it to the next level. Isn't it sad that that's the way it works? I mean, we've read the stats. We've with the young generation especially, where large portions of them, 60, 70, 80, 90%, agree that they have the freedom of speech, that they believe that they do have the freedom of speech, but also they believe in censoring other people on social media who do not agree with them, because that is hate speech and that is anti-freedom of speech there. That is not what they should be saying, because as long as you have the right to say it, then that's fine until it offends me. And now we can live in our own little bubbles, and we can live in our own little world and nothing else. La, 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 la. It's plugging your ears and closing your eyes, shaking your head. I can't hear you. I don't want to hear anything about it. This is really, by the way, what the Democrats are doing in our state legislature as well. La, 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 la. Wait a second. More money's not going to solve the issue. La, 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 la. Doesn't matter. We're going to throw more money at it. Then all of a sudden we'll see 95, 96, 100% graduation rates in the state of Kansas. We'll see it, baby. It's going to be fantastic. We'll never see an issue. We just talked with Peter Murphy from New York City. He admitted this is the same thing that's been happening in New York City. Can you imagine New York City major metropolitan area like New York City, with schools after school after school after school, and they've been sinking billions of dollars in, billions of dollars, more money, more money, more money. Has that solved it? Do we not any longer have any slums in New York City? Do we not have any bad schools inside New York City any longer? Do we have all these great, wonderful schools that are getting 100% graduation rates? No one's dropping out. Everybody's graduating to be able to go on to like Ivy League schools without having to take intermediate classes. Everybody's doing it right, and it's billions of dollars, which drives home the point. Who is in control of the conversation, and what's the real political agenda here? Everything's got an agenda. I have an agenda. I'm promoting conservatism. That is my agenda. A caller calls in to make a point. They have an agenda. A lot of callers, or some callers that call in, may work with special interests who have a direct agenda, and there may be some of that. So we always take what somebody says with a grain of salt. Take what I say with a grain of salt and go do your own research. But at the same time, let's understand what the agenda is. The special interest, the teachers' unions, the school district. Come on, the school board, do you think they'll ever come out and say, it is our responsibility when it comes to negotiation of salaries of teachers? And instead of, do you remember last November, where actually we finally gave the raises to the teachers, the 3.9%. It was almost 4%. And everybody was excited. Yeah, we did the retroactive tax increase. We got teachers more salary increases, which means the state gave the money to the district. The school board, is what negotiated that and gave them a 3.95% increase on the teachers. Then they turned around and gave the superintendent a 6% increase, where they're sitting in roughly around $297,000 with benefits and all. An annual salary of $254,000 with benefits $297,000 of a 6% increase plus an end of the year bonus that goes to $15,000. While we gave the teachers a 3.9% salary increase. That was not the legislature that did that. That was not the legislature that made that decision. That was not the state legislature. It was not the Republicans. It was not the evil Republican Governor Sam Brownback. It was not the evil Secretary of State Chris Kobach. It was not the conservatives like Ty Masterson or John Whitmer or Blake Carpenter or Brenda Landwehr or any of these other conservatives. It was none of them. They did not say, teachers, you're only getting a 3% increase. Superintendent, you're getting a 6% increase. It was not them. They took the tax money and they wrote the check to the school district and said, here you go, give the teachers a raise. And they did. Well, they turned around and also gave the superintendent a raise. We need to focus on the priorities. And teachers, if you're listening right now, or if you're in school now and you may still be listening on Facebook Live or you're listening on the way in, teachers, if you're going to be upset, let's direct the anger and the frustration in the proper place. Let's direct it at the teachers' union, who's not representing you the best way that they say they are. And number two, let's direct it towards the school board that negotiates your contract. And they're going to turn around and say, well, we didn't get enough money to be able to give you a raise. And your response, instead of being, I hate Republicans at the state legislature, should be, where's the money going? Because you're getting lots and lots of money. You're sitting on cash reserves, operational cash reserves. You gave the superintendent a bonus to where they're making almost $300,000, and we're sitting here at a $20,000, $30,000, $35,000, maybe $40,000 income. What's going on? What's happening? Because we're going to start marching like we're seeing in Oklahoma right now. We need to have the understanding so that way we can have a proper response. And right now, no one in the mainstream media is talking about that. No one in the media, the newspapers, the TV, nobody's talking about, let's focus on the school districts. Why? Because the school districts will do a very good job and continue to do a very good job saying, we don't have enough money to give you increases. You need to talk to the government because we're not getting enough money, which is just not true. 10 minutes to the top of the hour, 316-721-8255. Wrapping up the show today. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the program today, about 6 minutes to the top, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. I had to bring in, I did a comparison in the first hour with the marches happening in Oklahoma with the teachers for the teachers' salaries, the $6,000 salary increase that the governor signed in Oklahoma last week, and the protest day number 2 now when it comes to those. Now the talk is we may see the same thing here in the state of Kansas. The average teacher makes roughly about $40,000 in the state of Kansas as a salary. I did a comparison.
I'm quitting farming and going to be a teacher.
Going to be a teacher. Greg Steckline in here. And I wanted to bring you in because I wanted to ask you this. According to Farm Bureau, their national website, farmbureau.org, the average income by a farmer not doing outside work, because a lot of farmers do secondary jobs as well.
Right.
The average salary dropped 10% as a projection for this year to $21,000 after all the expenses as a net income.
And that's a conservative figure. Well, the problem is that the commodity prices have dropped so low over the last 2 years that it's almost impossible to make money, especially if you have land that you're trying to pay for, equipment that you're having to pay for.
Oh, sure.
Fertilizer expenses jump up and down like a yo-yo, so there's no way that you can ever get a decent price on fertilizer expenses, seed expenses. I mean, it never ends. It never ends. And, some farmers are fortunate enough to have land passed down from their family.
Sure.
They've got an opportunity because they don't have the land expense.
Sure.
But if you've got land expense and you've got everything else added on top of it, it is tough to make it go. And now livestock prices are hurting. These Trump tariffs.
Sure.
And the tariffs that China is now putting on pork imports or exports from the United States to them.
Right.
We just get hit from every way,
left and right,
and that's why people need to understand that farmers do need to have a I don't care what you call it, a safety net,
sure,
insurance, something to help protect them for things that happen that are beyond their control.
Well, and that's the thing. Everything that comes down to what kind of revenue and what kind of profit they can actually make. Every aspect of it is out of their hands, from commodity prices to international trade to the quality of it. It's all out of the farmer's hands. They are, I say, more of the victim than anybody. Even someone that's on the public dime, like teachers, who yes, they need their salaries taken care and compensated appropriately. But they had that safety net because they're on the taxpayer dime, and they have unions fighting for them. Farmers, there's very little that's actually advocating for them.
That's why it's so upsetting when people say, you don't need to have crop insurance. We don't need a farm bill. Well, you know what? You need to sit in the farmer's seat in that tractor for 14, 15 hours a day.
And then go do a second job.
And then figure out how to pay your bills at the end of the year, because it is not easy.
It's not easy.
And, the Kansas is kind of a unique state because you have farmers in the eastern part of the state that farm smaller acreages, and a lot of those farmers have day jobs, farm in the evenings and the weekends.
Right.
You go from Wichita west, they're all huge farmers. They are full-time farmers, and they have many, many employees. So the farming is real diverse in Kansas.
Sure.
And so you have a little of both the full-time worker at a job in town. They live on a farm, and then they farm in the evenings and weekends, smaller acreages. And then western Kansas is where, all the big big stuff is.
You mentioned the farm bill, and I know that we're working on the farm bill. What would be really nice if we actually focused on the farmers in the farm bill instead of 60-70% of the farm bill being food stamps and social program spending.
I don't understand how all of this other crap gets thrown in.
Because then it comes down to just like the emotional play of, if you don't vote for this, then you hate the farmer.
Yeah.
When it has nothing to do with the farmer.
Well, it's just like any other bill that they send through Congress. There's always 14 other ear tags or whatever you want to call them that has money tagged along with it. And it's just the way the system works, unfortunately. But we've got to do something. And it doesn't look good for farming as far as I'm concerned, especially with all these tariffs and the trade wars talk, the NAFTA throwing out. NAFTA was good for agriculture.
Sure.
And so, where's it all going to end? I don't know, but
I always say every day, I don't know how the farmers do it. And the fact that you're even making less at the end of the year, really, than even the teachers are out protesting. I mean, if the farmers just if they protest and just stop farming, what would happen?
Well, they'd go broke. But they've got to watch every penny to make it happen.
There it is. Greg Steckline, appreciate it, sir.
You bet.
Always a good time wrapping up the show today. It's a Tuesday, everybody. Have a good one. This is the Voice of Reason. We'll be back on Wednesday. Have a great Tuesday, everybody.